me thank Mr. Sinha, CII, for giving us this opportunity to present to this August gathering. The whole day has been pretty interesting, and it's kind of challenging for me to keep your interest awake and ensure that we have a good session on what we should do in the future so far as investor services are concerned. We've already heard from several distinguished speakers that there are 300 million customers in the banking industry versus 30 million in the mutual fund industry. There are 1.7 million insurance agents versus 60-odd thousand distributors in the mutual fund industry. Insurance industry is present in 700 cities, and the mutual fund industry is hardly present in 100 plus cities. Let me try and explain to you what we will be doing in the next 10-15 minutes as to what we should be doing in the next foreseeable future to kind of expand the industry and use technology to reduce cost. That's the quick agenda for the day. Key business needs, what are the case studies we have in hand, what are the A to Z that we need to do to ensure E for mutual funds, and bridging the digital divide through a whole lot of processes is what we are going to talk about. Let's understand first what are the key business needs that the industry has. The key business needs is naturally to reduce costs, improve retail penetration, ensure that we reduce the error rates that we have in the industry right now, ensure that we scale the transaction volumes, the number of network of branches that we have, bring efficiency in, and ensure that the trade process, which is so cumbersome today, is made far more smoother. The challenges that lie ahead of us, there are several intermediaries, there are banks, there are transfer agents, custodians, fund accountants, name it. There are several service providers. There are very weak B2B links to facilitate a smooth process of conducting a trade. The settlement system has to become stronger. We need to manage with a higher technology cost at this point of time, and we do not have a facility to give a single customer view to the customer across fund houses, as also a very stagnant information flow. The challenge therefore is, can technology help us achieve all this? Pretty interesting. We strongly believe that it is yes. There is no reason why it should be a no. And let me take you through a couple of examples very quickly to explain why we believe that technology can help us scale up and ensure that we at the same time reduce errors and costs. Let's take the case of the Indian capital markets. Some of it Mr. Ravi Narayan has already explained to you. I'm not going to hold a torch for him, but some of the factors that he has explained is what I'm going to repeat. The Indian capital markets today is about 39 lakh crores, and the mutual fund industry is about 10% of that. Okay, and if you take the Indian capital markets and if you take NSE alone, I'm really not getting into BSE, just to give you an example. On the NSE, there are about 1,500 plus stocks traded. The total number of cities that NSE is present in, we saw that earlier, is about 1,500 cities, and the number of brokers is nearly 1,000 brokers. And you will be amazed, I repeat, you will be amazed by the kind of transaction volumes that NSE puts through as against what the mutual fund industry puts through. And volumes is what matters, because that's the paper which comes in, that's the account statement that has to go out, that is the transaction for you which you have to cut the check, you have to ensure that the money goes to the investor. The NSE today on the cash segment puts through 30 lakh transactions every day. And on the F&O segment puts through about 13 lakh transaction, although the values are reverse. The daily turnover on the cash is around 8 to 10,000 crores. The daily turnover on the F&O segment is about 25 to 30,000 crores. But the fact is that 43 lakh transactions every day go in and out of the NSE system. How does that happen? And this is in spite of the fact that brokerage houses across the country are getting lower margins, are getting lower rates from the customers, and are expanding at a very rapid pace. There's not one brokerage house of a decent size which is in a loss-making proposition in the Indian market today. So we have a scenario where naturally the brokerage houses are able to still make money in spite of lowering the rates of brokerage to the customers, and ensure that they use technology effectively, and which is the technology that the National Stock Exchange today uses or the Bombay Stock Exchange today uses to connect to 1,500 cities across 1,000 brokers and do 43 lakh transactions. Let's take, this is a capital market example, I'll take you through a mutual fund example, and naturally when one talks of mutual fund, one would refer to the US. Before that, let me also tell you that this growth has come over the last 10 odd years at a 500% volume growth has happened over the last 6 years. 350% market expansion has taken place. When NSE started, it was at around 300 odd towns. Today they're talking about 1500 towns being covered. If I were to take you forward to the mutual fund business in US and India, again a very, very interesting comparison for all of us. The US industry, we all spoke about in the morning, is about $11–12 trillion. The trades that the US industry puts through is a staggering 14 lakhs every day. And that's not paper, that's exactly a model which is similar to NSE, where the investor dials up to his distributor, the broker places the order whether he wants to buy a Franklin Templeton or a Fidelity or a Merrill Lynch, and then the trade is put through seamlessly through the central system, and that's an order routing system. It's not a price discovery system like the way we have in the NSE system. So it's an order routing system. All trades are placed through that system and has a network of about 4,000 broker dealers operating on that live every day. The total number of mutual fund transactions that NSE, in the US that has taken place in the last year is about 143 million. And a throughput of about $2 trillion has gone into the industry through the NSEC system. Take the case for India. About 100 billion US is what we are talking about in terms of assets under management, and a meager 50,000 to 60,000 transactions every day is what we put through. Just imagine 50,000 against 14 lakhs in the US against 43 lakhs in India on the NSEC system. So what we need to do, and also about hardly 50,000 distributors in the country as of today, 50–60,000 distributors distributing mutual fund products. So how do we bridge the digital divide? That's the key. The road ahead for us is to kind of emulate these systems, help us leapfrog ahead in the marketplace by utilizing similar systems that has helped industries elsewhere in the world. If one were to look at a listing of what we need to do, I would rather think that the Global Transaction Exchange Platform, which is an equivalent to an NSEC or an NSE in India, is what we need to replicate. And we have already heard from Mr. Ravi that this replication is easily possible. You don't need to kind of rebuild the whole thing. The network is available and we need to get on with that network. We need to build strong B2B interfaces. I spoke about that as a challenge. We need to ensure that there are global messaging standards. If you take Europe or US, there are standards of SWIFT. In India, we have started using ISO messaging standards. That's what the credit card industry uses. And there are several other standards that we could look at. Web services as an appropriate platform, a strong internet and mobile payment gateway. The other day I was just reading a newspaper article as late as yesterday that mobile phones as a method of payment is going to become increasingly popular, and I heard one of the speakers saying the same thing here. Airtel and other cellular providers have already started that initiative. So if I were to get into a cab in India, and if the driver has a mobile, and invariably he has, all I need to do is transfer money from my mobile to his mobile. It's as simple as that. So mobile payment gateways is what we need to introduce. We need to ensure electronic trade confirmations. Millions of customers across India are being given physical account statements. And if you were to go to a bank, after every transaction, and that's something where I think the regulator would also have to come in, after every transaction, there is a physical statement that goes out to the customer. If you take the stock markets, there is a contract note, and the government has now allowed that if you sign an agreement with your customer, you can send an electronic contract note. There's no question of a physical contract note. So we are looking at E3 initiatives in terms of ensuring that we reduce physical paper and ensure high levels of electronic fulfillment. We're looking at if the industry does not leapfrog in the way that we would expect, then we can look at technologies like ICR and OCR to fulfill the requirements in terms of a common application form. Various other channels for payment should be considered. I have already spoken about it, be it smart cards or debit cards. Some of the fund houses have already introduced that in the marketplace. The cost still needs to come down in terms of using those cards, and even channels like Western Union, channels like Paybox need to be considered to ensure that we have a very effective system of settling transactions in India. Even the communication that we send to the investor, we were talking about mobile users all over. Mobile companies have been the fastest in terms of ensuring vernacular language, be it Hindi, be it Telugu, be it Tamil, be it any of the languages that we use in India. They have been able to get started with that in terms of facilitating the process. So if I were to expand on each of these, I will quickly go through this. Long story short, on a digital divide, bridging the digital divide on a global transaction platform is something where the distributors sit on a central system and ensure that the global transaction exchange takes over in terms of the order placement, order delivery to the asset management companies or their transfer agents at the back end, the asset management companies getting the NAVs, confirming the transactions back to the distributors, and the entire process is distributor driven through their front end systems, which is already existing in place in India. A few things of hygiene, a few things which are very important in establishing the whole process is to ensure that we have a strong B2B communication. That means that we have a proper network infrastructure, strong messaging standards which are internationally accepted, service-oriented architecture, and ensure that our web service platform is completely driven on a service-oriented architecture, giving a unified view to the customer, and high levels of security and public key infrastructure. If one were to look at the settlement, particularly on the payment side, there are several systems available today in India, and RBI has been, the Reserve Bank has been doing, taking a number of initiatives in facilitating the process of extending those processes into a more electronic form, a bulk form, to ensure that customers are serviced. Today the warrant continues, the physical check that goes to the customer continues to predominate over other modes of payment, but we are very clearly seeing trends of direct credit, electronic clearing services, NEFT which has got introduced recently, the real-time gross settlement and so on. Last but not the least, what is E3 initiative? Primarily the E3 initiative talks about communication to the investor in an electronic form. Now what would that mean? That would mean that you set up a central communication server, which is kind of a one-time cost. All of us have it in our offices, a central web server. We can even incentivize the customer like the way airlines and other people are doing to ensure that there are load waivers and loyalty points being given to the customer, to the investor, and ensure that all his communication needs, be it an account statement, be it a tax related advice, be it offer documents, be it the fact sheets, be it the prospectuses, all of that can be looked at in an email form. In long story short, if I were to tell you that there are several elements that kind of builds this entire piece, and therefore the service delivery becomes efficient and the network expands. The current cost elements in the industry are really challenging. There is an application form. All of you would be knowing here that the application form strike rate is very low. 1 out of 10 application forms actually get subscribed to, and the rest of it goes as waste. There is data processing, which is manual and prone to errors, and there's a whole lot of duplication because various investors invest in different funds, and there are multiple accounts within the same fund houses. Settlement is largely instrument based. The entire fulfillment process is through a physical statement of account. Archival of forms is required because there is a regulatory requirement that you should keep the forms for 10 good years, and also ensure that there is a delivery, and all of us know that the postage costs have only been going up. So we have these elements of cost. We also have, add to that, the troubles of having only a 125 city network and an average cost of doing a trade anywhere between 40 rupees or so. What would the new methodology mean, and how would technology bring in that change? If application forms were earlier being used, we will now use telephony and internet technologies. What would that saving mean? 100%, near 100%. Most of the brokerage houses do not even give a toll-free number to their customers. So they actually dial up at their cost. We can even look at least a toll-free number to the customer to put through a trade, through the distributor on the system, and maybe we will save 80-90%. Data processing, right now being handled by the transfer agent, will now move to the intermediary, as much as you do that in the stock market. The broker places the order on your behalf and confirms the trade online. So it would be intermediary driven. The entire settlement would be on a central electronic platform. What that brings to you is scale. Today 50-60,000 transaction, a fund house gets a 5 lakh application or a million application. There is enough flutter around that how would we do that process in 15 days and 20 days and ensure allotments and so on. A central electronic platform facilitates the process for you to take care of that. Again, the savings there is about 50% because there's a lot of investments that you would need to do as an industry body to ensure that a central platform gets created in the first place. All the fulfillments are on e-confirmations. Again, you will say about 50 to 60% because there is still a web server and a communication cost on broadband, etc., for you to give you the communication, and the archival of forms is completely eliminated. What it would get substituted by is the transactions being recorded over the phone, the orders being recorded over the phone by the distributor, so you will have some recording instruments to do that. And what it brings you to the table is about 1,500 locations in one single shot. And where are we now? About 100. It scales you up by 15 times. What it also brings to the table is the fact that today we are doing about 50, 60,000 transactions, 30, 40 lakhs, or whatever be the number, is actually a child's play in the new environment that we are talking about. Okay, let me close this and summarize. If one were to look at a digital bridging framework, what we need to do and what I would urge the industry to do and work closely with the industry is to ensure that we have a strong B2B communication, a global platform to handle all the transactions, ensure that the messaging standards are set in, all the payment and settlement systems are done through more electronic than physical mode, and ensure that the fulfillment is also electronic in nature so that the complete process is completely technology driven end to end. I guess the best way of predicting the future is to invent it. Thank you very much. Yeah.